Today we're going to we're going to learn Perek Chav Beis. We're going to start in Perek Chav Beis, and would like to learn the first 8 psukim of Perek Chav Beis. Oziko Yehoshua LaRuveini VeLaGodi VeLachatzi Mate Menashe Vayomer Aleim Atem Shmartem Es Kol Asher Tziva Eschem Moshe Eved Hashem Vatishmu Bekoili Lekoil Asher Tzivisi Eschem Lo Yozaftem Esacheichem Ze Yomim Rabbi. You did not leave your fellow brothers Yomim Rabbi Ad Hayoim Hazeh, until today. ושמרתם את משמרת מצוות השם אלוהיכם, ועתו הניח השם אלוהיכם לאחיכם כאשר דיבר להם, ועתו פנו לכו לכם לעוליכם על ארץ אחוזתכם אשר נוסן לכם מוישה עבד השם בעבר הירדן. רק שימרו מאוד לעשות את המצווה ואת התורה אשר ציווה אתכם מוישה עבד השם, לאהבו את השם אלוהיכם וללכת בכל דרכיו, ולשמוע מצוותיו ולדבקו בו, ולעבדו בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. Vayevarchem Yehoshua Vayeshalchem Vayelchu El Oholeim. So the first 6 psukim is talking about Reuven and Gad, the Chotzi Shevet Menashe, are coming to Yehoshua bin Nun, and they are finished with their job. They took a mission upon themselves. As everybody remembers, we have in Chumash, in Sefer Bamidbar, Shevet Reuven and Gad, the Chotzi Shevet Menashe, they had a Mikne Rav, and they did not want to come to Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to stay in Ever Yarden, because Ever Yarden was exactly fitted for their need, for their agricultural needs, for their parnosa v'chalko. They come to Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, listen, we have a Milchemes Kibush Ha'oretz coming up, and you cannot be Meimi slave Acheichem. You cannot be, if you're going to stay behind and not come to Eretz Yisrael, it's going to make us gewaldike chulshe amongst Bnei Yisrael. So I'm asking to let you have this land subject to. And he gives them the Tnoim. Actually, the whole parsha of Tnoim we have in the Torah is learned from Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. And there is halachas of Hein Koidim L'Lav, of Tnai Kofel, Tnai Koidim L'Maiset, Tnai Maiset B'Davar Echad. All the halachas of Tnoim are learned from this story of Moshe Rabbeinu, Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. So now, he tells them, you have to go, chalutzim lifnei ha-machne, you are going to be the patriots, you're going to be the ones that are going to be standing in front of the machne, in milchemes kibush ha'oretz, so you have to stay there till the gemar ha-kibush. Now, as we know, the first 14 years that Klal Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael, they were divided to 2. The first 7 years is called kibush, the second 7 years is called chalukah, which means they conquer the vast majority of the land during the first 7 years since they crossed the Yarden. We know they didn't finish, and they kept on doing. We know even in the Shnei Sachaluka there was some kind of minor battlefields to complete it, but it's called Sheva Shneis Kibush. Basically, it was called Gemara Kibush, even though, as we said many times, this is called Kibush Olam Mitzrayim, and Olam Mitzrayim is called from Yeshua up to David HaMelech 400 years later, because Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, was not Nichbash till the time of Goyren David in Avnei Yevusi when he finishes conquering Yerushalayim. There were different places, like we learned Beishan, Yerushalayim, Megiddo. There were places were not conquered throughout the years because of different reasons that they couldn't capture. But the vast majority of Kibush is called Sheva Shneis Kibush. Now, Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, and Chotzi Shevet Menashe really could have made a U-turn after the Kibush, but being that they didn't feel that it's 100% completed, the mission is not fulfilled, they stayed for additional 7 years of Chalukah. Now we're holding at the point 14 years after Bnei Yisrael come to Eretz Yisrael, and they're coming to leave, and they come to Yehoshua bin Nun. They come to Yehoshua, they say, we did our job, we stayed not only 17, we stayed 14 years, we come to the Rebbe and would like to Gezegenzach, would like to be Nifrad Mirabbi. Yehoshua tells them, you're going, you can go back, Einiach Hashem la'acheichem. The mission was completed, the Tnai was fulfilled, and you kasher diber lohem, and you are right now ready to go and leave and go back to Ever Hayarden HaMizrachi, to your wife and children that you left behind. But I would like to tell you a few divrei musa. Shimru me'oid la'asas es ha-mitzvah ve'es ha-torah. You have to be nishma me'oid la'asas mitzvah torah lahavo laleches bidrochav lishma mitzvosov ledovko. And the Metzudas explains that the reason why you are getting this Musa Shmu Shimu Boyd Af Imir Tarchiku Mimishkan Hashem. Klal Yisrael that stays in Ever Yarden Amarav in Eretz Canaan in Eretz Yisrael has a Mishkan. First 14 years there was Mishkan Shiloh. Thereafter were there 369 years of Mishkan Shiloh. The first 14 years was Gilgal. Then was Mishkan Shiloh. Then there was not even given another 57 years till Shlomo, David HaMelech and Shlomo build the Beis HaMikdash. So they have a Mekoim, Likones, as the Rambam says, this is the Mekoy of the Ruchnias, the place where Klal Yisrael connects with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They go and they bring the Korbanos there. We know that most of the time in Gilgal, the Bomas of Mutoras, but in Shiloh, the 369 years, which is the biggest kufa throughout the time from Moshe Rabbeinu till Bina Beis HaMikdash, 480 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim, we know that the Bomas were also. So Klal Yisrael, any person that had to be makiv, any single korban had to go to the Mishkan Shiloh to be makiv there. So the connection between the people and HaKadosh Baruch Hu were great because they were, even though there's a Shaila and a Ramban and Sofik, there's a Mitzvah Saliyah LaRegel in Mishkan Shiloh, but Koponim, the Korbanos, they definitely had to go every year, that a couple times a year had to go and be makiv his Korbanos, his oil, his chatos, whatever you had to bring in the neder and the dovo, you had to go to Mishkan Shiloh, and there you connected with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whereas, Atem Tarchiku, you are standing in Ever Yarden, there is a Yarden, there is a border, you're standing in there in Ever Yarden, which doesn't have, as the Mishnah says in Kalim, it doesn't have exactly the same kind of level of Kedusha as Eretz Canaan, Eretz Yisrael, which was Mekudeshes Mikol HaRotzes, as Mekudeshes Be'ever Yarden, as the Mishnah states for the 10 stages of the Kedusha. The first Kedusha is what Eretz Yisrael has over and above the Ever Yarden. So Mimele, Yeshua wants to be mechazik them and tells them divrei musar, you have to be shimru me'oid. The reason why you have to be shimru me'oid is because you don't have that daily contact with the Mishkan, and therefore you have to be ledovka be'lo'ovde b'chol levavchem b'chol nafshechem. You have to be oived wherever you are. Now, Vayevarchem Yehoshua ve'ishalcha ve'yelchu l'oleim. As we see Poshte Pshat, Yeshua, they come in, he gives them the night, gives them the bracha, he tells them that Gia Azman, that you can go, and then they go back to Oleim. And then, fine, if everything would finish here, be fine and dandy. The problem is, the next two psukim. V'lechatzi shevet HaMenashe nosan Moshe baboshon, u'lechetzio nosan Yeshua imachem v'me'ever hayarden yomo, וגם כי שילחם ישוע להוליה בויברחם. ויאמר עליהם לאמור, בנכוסים רבים שובה להולכם, ובמקנה רב מאוד, בכסף ובזוב ובנחושס ובברזל ובסלומס הרבה מאוד, חולקו שלל אויביכם עם אחיכם. Pasuk, after he said they vayelchu, seemingly they left and they went home, all of a sudden the Pasuk has 1 second, hey, hold on a minute. When I said Menashe, it doesn't mean, it just means the Chotzi Shevet Menashe, which dwelled in Ever Yarden and Mizrachi. But don't forget, the Chotzi Shevet Menashe, which is the other half, we did have a Nachli in Eretz Yisrael, they're staying in Ever Abiyama. Then he says, V'gam kishilchem Yeshua l'leim, Vayevarchem, Vayomer aleim le'emor, I'm giving you Nechosim Rabim, you're walking out of here with several, with a package of hand. Okay, of Mikne, Kesef, Zov, Nechoshes, Barzel, Slomos, you're going to get the Sholol, from Eretz Yisrael, you take back with you to Chutzos. The question is, it says already before, Vayelchu, what's V'gam kishilchem Yeshua? So Rashi bavors the thing. Rashi says, V'gam kishilchem Yeshua, l'chotzi shevet HaMenashe, kekasher sholach es bnei God v'ruvein. Rashi seems to be saying that the first 6 psukim is talking about bnei God and bnei Ruvein. V'gam, now for some reason or another, Chatzi shevet HaMenashe is going also to Ever Yarden, is also getting a bracha bezunder, and for some reason or another, the Hanoka Vayomer Haleim, to Rashi it seems, L'chati Shevet HaMenashe. The problem is, the Radak right away bavorns the Shaila. L'chure, the Radak says, what does it mean, V'lechoti Shevet HaMenashe? He's not learning like Rashi, he says, Beferish, that in the beginning it says, Oz Yikra Yeshua l'Revuni v'l'Agodi v'l'Choti Shevet Menashe Vayomer Aleim. Yeshua is speaking not only to Reuven and Gad, but Choti Shevet Menashe. So afterwards it says, Vayeshalchem. What does it say? Nocham ol Choti Menashe. And what does it say about the Hanok? So I'm reading the Radak. Yesh oimrim lechotzi shevet Menashe, he quotes Rashi, ve'af al pi shehoyu bichlal vayishalchem. Even though they were together in the beginning of Vayishalchem, still he's referring to Chotzi. V'hanochen, he doesn't like this pshat. Ki al kulam omar. Vayishalchem, this v'gam ki shilchom, this posuk, v'gam ki shilchom, is not talking about Chotzi shevet Menashe. He's talking about Kul. Ve'af al pi shekvar omar, Vayevarchem Yehoshua, Sholach v'chozar achar kach ve'omar ki gam ki shilchom lahashlim adovo she'omar lohem kasher shilchom she'omar lohem b'nechosim rab mishuv. In other words, Ki'ilu, the pasuk for some reason or another splits it to two. That what they said before Vayishalchem Yehoshua, please note, it wasn't stam leidike-handed, walking out empty-handed from Eretz Yisrael back to Ever HaYarden, but Yeshua sent them with a package full of goodies, with tzayin and bokor and kesef and zov and all the things which are stated in the pasuk. So this is what the Radak brings down. Yet it still doesn't answer Nochamol, it seems. So what's Vayevarchem? Ki'ilu, it's a bit ambiguous. So the Radak brings down ubedrash, brings down a droshe. Ubedrash omru le'achar shenotlu reshus nishtau shnei yomim v'chozru v'notlu reshus pam shniyo v'zeu she'omar v'gam kishilchem Yehoshua. The Drash brings down the Radak that be'emes, the two times that he mentions in the pasuk are two different prayers. They went twice to Gezegenzach from Yeshua Binu. L'chatchila, they thought they're leaving today. They came to Yeshua Binu and he gave them the whole bracha, the whole mustashmuz. Thereafter, they changed their mind and they set for another 2 days extra. On Monday morning they came, they were the whole Gezegenzach, they got the whole shmuz, and then they stayed till Wednesday. Wednesday they're actually leaving, they came a second time, and I'm reading, Kikach minag hanifrod meraboy shinimach li shoer boli pored shenis. This is the meaning. If somebody goes to his Rebbe, and he goes to Gezegenzach from the Rebbe, and he ends up not leaving town, and he's staying in town, and he goes only after a day or two, he has to come back to the Rebbe to Gezegenzach again. This minhag that the Radak brings down, actually it's a sugyas hagemoreh in Masechtas Moed Kotten in Daf Tes Amud Aleph. The Gemara says a fabulous story. Rabbi Yonason ben Asmoy Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim, these two Tanoim who lived in the Tkufa of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Tonu Parshas Nedorim by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. They learned the Parsha of Nedorim by the Rebbe Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Iftur minei beurte. At the evening they came to Gezegenzach. They finished learning Masechtas Nedorim or Parshas Nedorim, whatever it is. They come to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the Rebbe, to Gezegenzach to be nifrad mirabli. Letzafro. The next morning, Hodu v'kamifter aminei. They came a second time to get another birkas haderech, another Gezegenzach from the Rebbe Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Omar lehu, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai asked Rabbi Yonas and Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim, v'lav ifter zu mimni beurte. You were here yesterday night. Was kommst du noch einmal? What are you coming again? Omrulei, says Rabbi Yonas and Rabbi Yehuda back to Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Limadetanu Rabbeinu. You taught us, the Rebbe, du hast uns ausgelernt. Talmid shenifta meraboi, velon beoisa ayir, a Talmid that was nifta meraboi, and he decided at the end, he left in the afternoon, he went to the Rebbe, he took Sholem, he says, I'm going back, and then he decided to stay overnight, and he's leaving the next morning. Sorich li poter mimenu pam acheres. It has to Gezegenzach from the Rebbe a second time. Sheneemar, where's the riot? Bayoim Hashmini, the Pasuk in Melochim Aleph in Perakei, after Shlomo HaMelech completes the Binyan Beis Hamikdash Harishon, Bayoim Hashmini Sholach es ha'om Vayevarchu es HaMelech. The Yom Hashmini, which is Shmini Atzeres, Sholach es ha'am Vayevarchu es HaMelech, they went to get a bracha to the Melech. V'ksiv, in Divrei Hayomim, there's another Pasuk, which is speaking about the very same event, Ubeyoim Esrim V'Shleishel HaChodesh HaShvi, and the 23rd day, which is a day later, Sholach es ha'am, it says they only sent them back the 23rd day. Elo mikan letalmid anifta merabba v'lom ba'isayir tzorch lipoter mimenu pa'am acheres. You taught it to us and you brought us the source from Bina Beis Hamikdash when Klal Yisrael is going to Gezegenzach. They went on Shmini Atzeres. They got the bracha of Shlomo HaMelech, and apparently they didn't exit. They didn't leave town until the next day, because the pasuk in Divrei Hayom is speaking about the very same episode, the very same Preda, is saying that they left on the 23rd day of Tishrei of Chodesh Hashvi, and he gave him bracha. So Zeraya, the Talmud, Anifta Meraboi, the Lambo, he said, Yitzchok Lipotem Imenu Pam Achers. Rab Shimon ben Yochai was so spoiled from the Maise. Omar Lebrei, Rab Shimon ben Yochai told his son is Rab Loza Rab Shimon, Bnei Odom Halolu, these people, Anshe Anoshim Shel Tzurohem. It's a mensch mit a Tzuro. Amir de Kazach. Rab Shimon ben Yochai comes along and teaches his son. He hears such a word. Anoshim Shel Tzurohem. Zil Gabayu Delevarchucho. He go to them and ask them for a bracha. There are people that are worthwhile after they came and they told me they have to Gezegenzach. Before they leave town, please go to the get a brocha by die zwei Gdoilim, by this Rabbi Yonas and Rabbi Ben Gerim. Ozel Ashkechine de Karome Kroya Adode, Ksiv Pales Mago Draglecho Drochecho Ikonu, Vksiv Oire Chaim Pentefales, right? Could you be mefals? Lekashe kam b'mitzvah sheyifshal la'asei al de acherim, kam b'mitzvah sheyifshal la'asei al de acherim. We don't have the time right now to learn up this whole Gemara, but let's go nachzor l'inyaneinu. We're talking about Bayoyim HaShmini with the Pasuk in Melachim. He's talking about the Shmini Atzeres. The date of Shmini Atzeres is Chov Beis. We know Tesvav is Yom HaRishon for Chag HaSukkos. And 22 Yom LaChodesh HaShvi is Chodesh Tifrei. He says that the Am is Nifrad Nochamol from Shleima HaMelech. So why are they Nifrad Mimenu B'Shenis? Who is the Gezegenzach already yesterday? Be'echrech, you see that if a person are held back and not leave to his destination, even for one night, is mechuyev to go back again to the Melech and Nifrad Mimenu B'Shenis. This drash the Radak brings down, Radak brings down a drash, it's a medrash. Drash brings down, it's a medrash rabbi in Parshas Noach. And the medrash rabbi in Parshas Noach says the same story, but in a different version. It says Rabbi Yitzchok ve'Rabbi Yechonon ve'Rabbi Yudon Giyoire. Rabbi Yudon Giyoire is Rabbi Yudon ben Gerim, everybody says. It doesn't say Rabbi Yonason, it says Rabbi Yechonon. Somebody changes the gears and it adds on a third man de Omar, a third partner to this trio, Rabbi Yitzchok. Holchu lishmoya mi Rab Shimon ben Yochai Torah. Says the Medrash Rabbi, they went to learn Torah. Is the Amre Pashas Nedorim, the is the Amre Pashas Nesochim. That's it, brings down either Pashas Nedorim, Pashas Nesochim. Venotlu imenu reshus. They took reshus to leave, to go goodbye. Vehimtinu sham yoyim echad. Omru tzrichim onu litol mimenu reshus pam sheni. They asked the question they were contemplating, unlike the story in the Sugya Sagmoy Moed Cotton, the Medrash Rabbah says a little bit different. They were mesupek if the fact that they nifra last night from Rab Shimon ben Yochai is sufficient enough that they can leave town without going in again. Omar Chad Minon Dorash, one of the three of them told his other friends, Ksiv Vayevarchem Yehoshua Vayelchu Le'oholeim. What's happening? In other words, the Mekor is not from Shlomo HaMelech, but the Mekor is from Unzere. That's a drash. The drash is talking about Unzere Pasuk. It says, Vayevarchem Yehoshua Vayeshalchim. That's the Pasuk Vov. Vayelchu Le'oleim. And then it says, Vayta Nochamol. What's the second Pasuk? Gam Kisholchem Yehoshua Le'oleim Vayevarchem. Elo. Listen to the story. Yisrael mekabshim umechalkim es haaretz. Hoyoshevet Reuben v'Gad imoyim ve'osu Yudalet shono. Notlu reshus doesn't say Chotzi Menashe, but it says Reuben v'Gad. Osu Yudalet shono. They were there for Sheva shekibshu v'Sheva shechilku. Notlu reshus min Yeshua lolechas lo'elem ve'shohu shom yomim achodim. They left, they stayed, after they said Rishus from Yeshua, they stayed another few days. V'chozru v'notlu mimenu Rishus pam shniyo lekachnem v'gam kishilchum. That's the drash that he brings down, that they didn't leave right away, they stayed an additional few days, and for these additional few days, that's why they needed to come the next day to Yeshua Binun, the next time, not day, next time, the next few days later. This is what the Mande Omar brought a raya that you have to nifrat pam shniya. Omar Rav Yudon, is additional. This Rav Yudin is Rav Yudin ben Gerim. Shevet Reuven v'Shevet Gad bnei Pamalia shel Yehoshua. They were friends with Yeshua. Reuven and Gad, this Shevet Reuven and Gad, they were bnei Pamalia. The Meforshim of the Medrash said they were Reim v'Chaveirim of Yeshua. More than other Shvatim, they had bazundere friendship with Yeshua Benu. V'live oison ad hayarden. When they leave, they go to Bnei Reuven for wherever they're staying right now, from Shiloh or wherever they are. He's walking with them. He went to Gezegzach till the Yarden. Kiven shero shenismat or pamalia shaloi. Yeshua didn't go himself. He went with a few shamoshim, with a few people that escorted Yeshua Benu. But as Yeshua was going further and further, people apparently just stayed for the beginning of their ride. But when they came to Ever Yarden, they saw that Yeshua is basically going home almost by himself, because all the people were nilva to Yeshua Benu to go and escort them to Mekayim Mitzvahs Levoya was nishmetu veholchu nismato pamalia shaloi. Chozru velivu oisoi ad beisoi. So this Bnei Reuven and Gad, they were such a friends, they said, wait a second, you're going back home? We're going to walk you back. And they made the whole journey back from the Ma'boris Hayarden, from wherever he wanted to leave him off. They took him back for where they started from. Hoisa habrocha achroino gdoilo mina rishayna. The bracha that he gave him the second time was bigger than the first time. Hador diksiv, vayoyim elohem leva benechosim rab mishum lolechem mikne rab meoi bakesef basor benechosh vebaz b'smol saboy shlal oivechim b'chem keilu. He gave him a much bigger hanokeh for some reason or another. That's how Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim learns. The bracha they received the second time after they re-escorted back Yeshua to go back after he was malava them was a bigger bracha than the bracha harishayna. This is this Man Omar in the Medrash. Uchrana is one of the Tanoim that appears many times, mostly in Yerushalmi. Uchran Dorash kvaksi bayem hashmini sholach esam vayevorch esam melech matal mulem bayem 10 shleish hashvi v'chodesh hashvi sholach esam vayevorch esam melech ela notlu mimenu rishus v'imtinu sham yom echadi v'choz v'notlu rishus pam shniya lekach neema bayem 10 b'sholosh l'chodesh sholach esam. The second Manda Omar, Uchrana, is basically the same Manda Omar that appears in the Sugya Sagmora in Moed Kotten Taftes that we read before. And the Shaila is, Lichur is a machlekes, what's the Mekor of this halacha of Talmid Anifta Merabba Vilan Bo'isa year, and he comes back a second time. Before he leaves town, he must go back to the Rebbe to Gezengzach. Is the Mekor from Shloimeh HaMelech or the Mekor Yeshua Benu? According to this Manda Omrim, the Drash, the first Manda Omrim in the Medrash Rabbah in Parshas Noach, where the Radak brings down the story he learned from here, that after the Gezegenzach, they come back again and the Gezegenzach again. Whereas the Radak just brings down, they stay the extra day and they have to come back, and the Medrash Rabbah tells us a whole story that Yeshua walked him and they walked him back and he gave a bigger bracha. But the idea is the same. From Yeshua Binu we learned that they were Nifra the second time. You have to go. If you don't leave right away, you must take Rishus and get a Divrei Preida and Brocha a second time over. And Uchrano, and that's the second Manda Omer in the Medrash Parshas Noach learns, like the Sugyas HaGemara in Moed Kotten, the Mekor is not from Yeshua, but the Mekor is from Shloimeh HaMelech, who is, he is the one who Gezegenzach from them on Yom HaShmini, and B'Yom HaShmini, Afal Pichen, it says, B'Yom in Divrayom says a posuk that the Gezegenzach again from them, they were Nifred once again on the following day, on the 23rd of Chodesh Hashvi, which is the day after the Yom HaShmini. Very interesting. In Shulchan Aruch, if you look in Shulchan Aruch, in Yeridea, in Hilchis, Koved, Rabbi, V'Talmid Chochem, in Siman Reish Mem Beis, the Ramah says, Anifta Rabbi, I'm quoting, V'notl men reshus v'lam be'ir tzorch l'achzer v'litl men reshus. V'davko, says the Ramah, Shalei Omar mitchila sherotzu lolum ba'ir. Ava im higid le b'shor shenotl reshus, en tzorch l'achzer v'litl men reshus. He's mechalik. If he went to the Rebbe, he says, I'm leaving town, he says goodbye, and then he decided staying overnight, and he has to go back to the Rebbe again in the morning to get reshus and be nifred again. But if, when he told him, he says, I'm planning to stay in town another day. I'm just coming right now. When I'm decided tomorrow morning, I got to run to the airport, so I'm coming tonight to Gezegenzach. Then, there's no halacha, he has to be back with the parade of the previous day, is sufficient enough. And the shaila is, be'emes, if the Mekor is from Yeshua, from our psukim, so that's very, very well understood, because Lemaise, in the beginning, they didn't know that there will be Misakev, and the whole story of Bnei Pamalia is going to go back, and they're going to know his Pamalia will be Nishmat, and they'll go back with him. They never knew. They never anticipated that this is going to happen. So therefore, if they didn't anticipate it going to happen when they gizegazach the first time, it wasn't sufficient enough for the second parade, and therefore is a din to go till they came back, they escorted Yeshua. They only left the next day or 2 days later. They have to come and ask Yeshua again. But in the story of Shloimeh, this was Shmini Atzeres. Shmini Atzeres is Chov Beis Tishrei. First of all, they're not allowed to walk out of the Tchum on Yontif. That's number one. This is number one. Number two, the Gemara state in Sukkot Daf Mezayim Pazer Keshev, which means Shmini Atzeres is a regel b'fnei atzma. The halacha is, you learn out from the pasuk Ponito Uponiso Baboiker Ve'olachto Lo Holecho, that regel is ton lino. In other words, you cannot leave on Yontif itself. You have to stay one night after Yontif. Regel is ton lino. So the Gemara says, Legabe 6 things, the halacha is it's regel. Shmini Atzeres is not part of Chag HaSukkos, but it's a regel b'fnei atzmo. One of them is this halacha that has a din of regel b'fnei atzmo. The same thing, regel is ton lino, so too Shmini Atzeres is ton lino. So Shmini Atzeres is ton lino. So when they come to Gezegzach from Shloimeh HaMelech and Chov Beis and Yontif, they know that Shloimeh HaMelech, they know that they're not leaving today in the middle of Yontif. Why? For 2 reasons. Number one, they can't go out mechutz l'tchum. And number two, there is a problem that there is Shmini Atzeres is ton lino. So when they come on Yontif, it's obvious that he's leaving only tomorrow. If he's leaving only tomorrow, why do they have to come a second time to be nifrad a second time from him, even though yesterday when they told him that it was very well known that they're not leaving today. So the kashi is not my kashi. The kashi is a Marshal's kashi in Moed Katan. And he says like this. Marshal would like to suggest that be'emes b'shmini atzeres, they left the city and they went alpayim amo, to the tchum. And they were planning, they had to get back home. They were planning, they went alpayim amo, they're going to stay over there in their motel in 2,000 amos, where the mokem is. And Motzei Chag, Lemocharas, they were trying to leave. Why? He says there, Maharsha says a shtickle Torah, that the reason why they didn't stay overnight is because when they left Shloimeh HaMelech, they still didn't know the tzait, the halacha, the Shmini Atzeres is regel b'fnei atzmoi, and therefore it's ton lino b'fnei atzmoi. Says the Maharsha, they did not know the halacha. But after they left and they came to the stanza, somebody came to let them know, there is a drosha, hey guys, you got a mistake, you can't leave tonight because you want to leave right after Havdalah, you're rushing to go home. Please know that Shmini Atzeres is regel b'fnei atzmoi, and you have to be lan here. It's b'tei chatchum, it's Havdalah, it's called, it's still in Yerushalayim, and therefore, kol regel ton lino, they went back and they slept in town. Since they slept in town, they had to go back to Shloimeh HaMelech, to Esor Shus L'Mochas. So there is a shtickle Torah for the Maharsha that he wanted to suggest that Shmini Atzeres is nischadesh the halacha, that it's regel b'fnei atzmoi klape the halacha of ton lino after the yontif. This was nischadesh in the stanze where there were 2,000 amas. I don't know what the Mekor the Maharsha is, but machmas adoichak, and since the halacha is that anifta merabo, and he knows that he's not leaving till tomorrow, doesn't have to come gizegenzach again, he makes his whole shtetl. Many years ago I heard from B'Shem Reban Shechter Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, was just nifter. I heard that he was said over a word to Rav Hutner Zichreinu Livrocha, and he wanted, Rav Hutner was Shtar Gishmechel, he said over the word that he heard from him. He said very, very nicely, he says, if you look at the psukim of the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, when they completed it, and I'm reading a few psukim in Melochim Aleph in Perek Ches. It says as follows: Vaya Shloimeh ba'eser yesachag v'kol Yisrael imo kohol godoil milavoi Chamas ad nachal Mitzrayim l'fnei Hashem Elokeinu shivas yomim V'shivas yomim arba asor yoim. We know the Gemara tells us that what's Shivas Yomim v'Shivas Yomim? 7 days prior to the Chag, they finished Beis Hamikdash. And they made a festive, they made a Chag, a Yontef, of Shivas Yomim Chanukas Habayis. And that's the Yom Kippur that they ate, the whole Sugyas Agmora that they ate, they didn't know if it was Nimchal, not Nimchal, Baskol is Yaitze, a ganze Shtikl Teire, Shivas Yomim, they made a festival. This Shivas Yomim finished in Chag HaSukkos. And then it says, the entire Yontef was a consecutive 14 days. 7 days of the Mesibah of Chanukas Habayis, and another 7 days is the 7 days of Yontef. Fragen alle beforschen, why did it say that the Yontef was only 14 days? The Yontef should have been 15 days. Chag HaSukkos is also koilel the Yom HaShmini, Shmini Atzeres. So Besach HaKol, they should have been 15 days, 7 days of the celebration of Beis Hamikdash, and then afterwards Chag HaSukkos Yontef Shivas Yomim, Shmoinas Yom Shivas Yimei HaChag and Shmini Atzeres. So he said a fascinating chap. He says the Gemara says in Sukkot Daf Memches that V'somachto b'chagecho v'hoiso ach sameach l'rabois leile Yontef achrein l'simcha. You have to be merabe leile Yontef achrein l'simcha. In other words, the mitzvah of Samachta B'chagecho does not finish at the end of the 7th day of Sukkot, but in the night of Shmini Atzeres, we have in Bezunder a mitzvah. You learn out from the pasuk Samachta B'chagecho Vayiso Ach Sameach. Kol Achim Verakim is l'ribuye l'meutei. So you are merabe, says the Gemara. Torah Rabban Vayiso Ach Sameach l'rabes l'Yontef Achim l'simcha. Maybe the pasuk is coming to merabe. The mitzvah simcha doesn't start Sukkot by the day, but in the night, the first night of Sukkot is a mitzvah simcha. Shu oimer ach cholik. Ach cholik tells me ach cholik is bazunder miut. It's not it. Uma rois lerabois. Ach cholik means the first night of Sukkot there is no mitzvah samachta b'chagecho, because ach is cholik. Says ma rois lerabos lelyontef achim v'lohitzi lelyontef rishon. Why take? We know that one night you have to be memayet for din simcha. Question is, are we memayet leil yontef rishon and mabe leil yontef achron like we fear? There's a mitzvah simcha and Shmini Atzeres at night, and the first night of Sukkot there is no mitzvah simcha. Mabe anias leil yontef achron sheken yish simcha lefonov. Umoitze ani leil yontef rishon she'ein simcha lefonov. Leil yontef achron is yesh simcha lefonov. Why? Because we had Shivas Yomim. Samachta b'chagecho Shivas Yomim, you're supposed to be sameach. So when you come to Shmini Atzeres, the night of Shmini Atzeres is Simcha Lefonov for the Shivas Yom. Masha'enke by Sukkot, the first night there's no Simcha Lefonov. He's more mistaber to be merabe the mitzvah Simcha and the Leil Yom Tov Achron, which is Simcha Lefonov, from being merabe Yom Tov Rishon, which is Ein Simcha Lefonov. Right? In Pashtus, you would learn the pasuk would be a Yom Tov Rishon because that's the main Yom Tov. No. So the Gemara knows since the pasuk acholek you have to be memayet something, so it's more mistaber to be memayet something which has already a din simcha. You merabe one night. The ribu is the night of Yom Hashmin. Said Rabban Shechter Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. We bald in that year that Shlomo HaMelech made Shiva Semei Chag and Simcha for Binyan Beis Hamikdash Achap. And it says, Befeish in the Gemara learns Adinim that had a din of a regel. This Simcha had a din of a regel, the Simcha of Chanukas Habayis Beis Hamikdash. So comes out in that particular year, the year of the Chanukas Habayis Beis Hamikdash by Yisris and Shlomo, there was a Yom Simcha Lefono Far Yontav Sukkos. Why? Because the 7 days which started a week before Sukkos was completed mamish by the first night of Sukkos. So Mimele, in that year was a bazunderim, a very unique and special circumstances that in that year there was a Simcha Lefonov. So since the Seichel Ayosha is to be merabe Simcham Leil Yontef Rishon, the only reason why we're not merabe Leil Yontef Rishon is because Leil Yontef Rishon ain't Simcha Lefonov, Leil Yontef Achon Yesh Simcha Lefonov Simcha Yom HaMishte. But here we had a regal 1 year, the year of Chanukas Habayis Beis Hamikdash, we had a regal before the Beis Hamikdash. So Mimele, at that year, the din of Yom HaShmini wasn't a regal b'fnei atzmei. Be'ois Hoshana, there was only the only reason why there's a regel b'fnei atzmoi, because there's a mitzvah v'samachta b'chagecho. The din is pazer keshev regel b'fnei atzmoi l'gabe the din lino keshev shin simcha b'fnei atzmoi. So Bimele, he said that the Shlomo HaMelech at that year they didn't have a din simcha, they only had shivas yimei. The reason why the pasuk, he said pshat in the pasuk. The reason why it said that they were Mesameach consecutive 14 days and not 15 days was a chap. He said it, I illusion for it. He said the reason why they had it only 14, not 15 days, because in that year, the mitzvah simcha was Leil Yontav Rishon and not Leil Yontav Achrein, and therefore Shmini Atzeres did not have a din simcha. So he said, Vibalt, the Shlomo HaMelech said, had a din simcha, he was nifred from them in Shmini Atzeres, Mimele, in as much, but it doesn't have a din simcha b'fnei atzmoi, because that year the simcha was related and zugestelt to Lo Yontav Rishon. There wasn't a din lina. The only reason why you have to lina b'fnei atzmoi is because steht in Gemara, because it's regel b'fnei atzmoi, you have to makriv shalmei simcha. But in Ois Hoshana there weren't makriv shalmei simcha in Yom Shmini Atzeres, because the whole din simcha was related to the first night of Sukkot. That was a ilush chap. Mimele, there's no din lina. Mimele, when they went to Yom Shmini Atzeres, they went to Gezeg Gezach from him. They could go out. There's still a yontif, but it didn't have a din simcha, it didn't have a din lina, but they could still akoponim go out till the mokum of tchum yontif. If that's correct, this is Adkan Dvorov. If that's correct, and that's the pshat in the psukim, Arba Soyom, he said that be'emes he was misyachas. What I heard the story, it says Arba Soyom, because Yene Yor was not the din simcha from Leil Yom Tavachal Simcha, because it was Yesh Simcha Lefonov. That was the word he said, the Kitzur. Very well understand why you need the reshus from the Melech again in Yom HaMachras, because Shlomo HaMelech knew they're leaving today. He didn't think they're leaving tomorrow. The whole shtickle teir from the Ramah that we just read in Shulchan Aruch is only if the Rebbe, the Melech, thinks that they're leaving tomorrow. So then when they come to Gezeg Gezach now, they're already Gezeg Gezach for tomorrow. But he, if Shlomo HaMelech at that year did not know, so he thought that they're leaving today Shmini Atzeres. Von deswegen they were misakev in the year and the land Oisa Lailo. Mele is the halacha is that they went and asked Rishus again. I'd just like to add one more ma'aseh. We're speaking about Rabban Shechter, say a few words. Le'ilu nishmosei ha'odom godel me'oid le'nishmosei. The ma'aseh Rab Shimon Yehoshua and Talmidim is tzorichian. What was it? Rab Shimon Yehoshua did not know what he taught him. He told only Matatanu Rabbeinu. You know, what do they have to? They tell him, why would they say the makor if they? Why do they have to? The whole shiloh. Why were they marchiv to bring the makor? They should have said limadatanu rabbeinu. What do they have to say? Because state or holamadet or what do they need? You learn just learn. And what did Reb Shimon Yehoshua get so spoiled? He went to Reb Elazar, Reb Shimon. He tells them, "Anoshim shel tzura, go get a bracha from them." And there's a word. There's a sefer Iyun Yankiv and the Ein Yankiv and the Shvis Yankiv. He brings the shach. The shach says that shach has a kasha on the Ramah. It says that if the person told the Rebbe that he's leaving in a few days, he doesn't have to go back again. He says, Shlomo HaMelech, it was they knew that they're not leaving today because, you know, and Afal Pichen they came to Gezeg Gezach. So the shach from here is a raya that even if the person knows that he's staying another few days, he has to go back Gezeg Gezach again. Says the Shvis Yankiv, Rab Shimon Yehoshua, they told him in the beginning they planned to stay another few days. And Rab Shimon Yehoshua takehel as even the shach, as if that was the psak halacha that. But when he told them the halacha, they didn't tell him the feirish. So he asked them, didn't I? Nifta b'yoyim esmol. They said, lo limitanu rabbeinu, and they beg the mocker tell you that since the mocker is from there, there's a raya that even if we told you we're leaving in a few days, so they saw from the Prida, they saw for that was the Mekor, that the halacha they have to come a second time over again. The reason why it says Anshe Tzura, because Chaim Volozhiner says, Vos is Ish Tzura. Chaim Volozhiner says, Talmid, I'm quoting, Hashemea Meraboy, Umoisiv Olov Havona Midaitoi, Hu Anikra Ish Tzura, Kalidei Zeh Shu Moisiv Al Raboy, Umekabel Tzura Mishaloi, Veloi Rak Tzuras Raboy. V'zu Maila G'doilo Me'oid Me'oid. Shimon Yehoshua saw that these people are very unique and special. They took and they saw the Makor was from that place, Mimela, the halacha is, not even if they told him, they have to come back to Gezengazach again. There's no other person more than Rabban Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. It was Meisif Midilei. He was a Talmid Muvok from the Rosh Yeshiva Rebbe Yitzchak Hutner. He was Meisif Nati. He was Mekabel Tzura Mishaloi, which is a Maila Doilo Me'oid Me'oid.